Hey there, glad you could make it. Today is a little bit different. If you heard the end of last week's episode, you know that Ronnie has renovations going on and it was going to be too noisy to record. So today we're in my studio, which also doubles as my home cafe. Delilah, the DeLonghi, is ready to take your order, so we can chat all about, are you throwing a pity party? Okay, well, let's go. Come on, it's coffee time. Before we kick off and while Delilah is making that coffee, let me introduce you to Mocha. This little bugger landed in our backyard a few weeks ago. We found her on the windowsill as our Labrador M had bailed her up for what could have been more than a day. We have high colour bond fences and we guessed she couldn't get out of the backyard. Council regulations here state that any found animals have to be handed to the pound for 8 days, and they advertised her on their website, which no one came forward, and we got to adopt her. She's currently in a temporary house in my office while she recovers from her surgery, and shortly she will go outside to our cat jungle to enjoy the great outdoors so she doesn't become a neighbourhood roamer. Just one more thing I wanted to share before we dive in. We've received a review on Apple from the M&L Show, which is Mark Ronick from Ironic Media. Mark shares Kerry has done an amazing job revamping this podcast into something both fun and educational. I appreciate her balance of wit and knowledge. Looking forward to more of Season 4. Mark actually worked with me behind the scenes to revamp this podcast, and he was a huge part of this revamped show. So if you happen to have a podcast and are looking for support or a revamp, I'll put Mark's website and Instagram links in today's show notes. And let me take this opportunity to say, if you're enjoying this new season and this experience, please leave me your own review. It really does help more people discover the podcast, and I'd love to mention you in a future episode. Now that Delilah has made the coffee, let's get into today's episode. Are you throwing a money pity party? Sometimes we don't understand something, or it's in a foreign language, and it's pretty easy just to say, to hell with it, and not face it at all. I see this happen all the time, so for one, if this is you, you're not alone, and secondly, you don't need to stay there. Another common trap to fall into is to look at other variables around us and convince ourselves these are the reason for our lack of motivation or attention to our money. And there's the kicker. You're not lazy, you're not dumb. You just don't know what you don't know, and sometimes we need to be guided out of the never-ending cycle. I'm as human as the next person. When something in my business doesn't make sense to me, which by the way happens a lot, I often want to go and pack up my bat and ball and go home. How often do you procrastinate over something? How freaking easy is it to turn on Netflix and get away from your problems instead of facing them or trying to work them out? Do me a favour. Put the pity party gear away and look for the solution. You may not find it instantly. It may not be right around the corner. But if we don't look and if we don't try to see, the answer to our money problems exists. That pity party can go on way longer than it needed to. So here's what I want you to do. Ask yourself, what's the biggest money problem you have? Is it, I don't have enough? Okay, so why? Is it really that not enough is coming in, or is it that too much is going out? Maybe your answer was, I don't know how to budget the money I have. Okay, so have you written it down? How much comes in versus how much goes out? Maybe your answer was, I don't know how much tax I'm going to pay and when that will be due. Okay, so you need to find an accountant in your local area to answer those questions. My point is today, there are answers to all the questions you have. Once you know what you're confused about, make it your mission to find those answers. No one you pass in the street is offering the answers. the pity party doesn't have the answers either. It's our business and no one is an expert. But you can find what you're looking for once you know what you need. So what about your money is keeping you up at night? Remember that song? Closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And a special thank you to Adam Rothenberg's influence that I'm now singing on this podcast. Definitely have to get back to the virtual cafe because that would not happen there. Before I wrap up this episode, I do have to mention that today is the official launch day of the Biz Beans Club. Some amazing business owners have joined me to ask their questions and get support with their business finances. With the club doors now open, I'm excited to start these monthly Zoom sessions and build the club with everyone together. If you want to end your money pity party, you can find the information via the link in today's show notes. Thanks for joining me today in the Home Cafe. We'll be back with Ronnie next week. And until then, happy Biz Beans to you.